Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to SP Reviews, where today I'll be checking out an EP from an act named Raw Soul titled Flu Season, or the Flu Season EP. And if we switch over to here, we have it on the screen. It should be noted that I am going to be reviewing this in advance of when it releases. I think it officially releases on the 14th of October, if I'm not mistaken. So we've got 7 tracks here from Michael through to Michelin. We're going to be listening through each of these tracks from start to finish. And hear what we think. Let's go. Let's do this.
Just like Michael. Just like Michael.
I'm liking the jazzy intro here. I'm not sure why my keyboard is suddenly lagging when I pause it. That's a little bit unnerving. But I am nonetheless enjoying the intro here. It's some interesting vocal modulation here. I suppose we're coming into the verse here. Wow, it's just really not behaving itself today, is it? I guess I'm going to have to... Yeah, that's going to be a fun one.
Michael. Falling just like Michael.
Oh, I get it.
I'm on a new tip. Getting to move quick.
Ooh, slam.
Get me a new chick. Or how about a couple? A young man's rubble is the future me. Soon to be brand new hustle.
That's an interesting line. A man's rubble is basically him being built up, I suppose. It's an interesting comparison there. The brass is so fresh, and now that the bass is coming with those really tight drums, everything sounds like it has a lot more context.
Like a G, doing things silently. What you know about this OG dichotomy? Habits amidst the mania. I overdose on these achievements. Keep sleeping, I got more flows coming your way. This year break a day. I'ma shine like I'm about to rhyme with all of the greats. I don't dribble, I fill it with mics. I might hit me a dike just to write that I hit it all night. I get the hype. If I were you, I'd be excited too. Who else coming through like you run the whole zoo? And April speaks the beat beyond your cheap imitation. Suleiman the Great, no relation.
I love the flow. I love the personality behind this and the swagger, and just the presence of the vocals in the mix as well is really great. Again, it took a moment for me to figure everything out, how things are going to be placed and leveled, but I'm happy with it. So it's basketball allegories and such, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, that low end on that bass. It's just sensational.
It happens to be the dream that's caught up this captain. I got a gift and I'm still looking to tighten my sound. I'm bound to round up and keep cooking. You mistook him, overlooked him, but now he's got him shook in escalation. The sensation, just look where his road took him. Okay, getting
I mean, we've got that one main motif along with the, variation between like the modulated vocals, just like Michael, Bullen like Michael, and then obviously the verse stanzas. It's such a fresh sounding 90s-esque kind of groove and vibe to it. It's so funky, man. It's now this is, again, it's hip hop and rap, but I kind of appreciate the old school approach with those vocals. We're not putting a whole lot of ornamentation, like modulation in there or anything like that. No excessive reverb chains and stuff like that. It's just someone spit in the center of the stereo field.
I can picture it though, but maybe take a few L's. The bells ringing, but sometimes we go through hell. But the key.
Hang on a minute. I just got to check something real quick. I just figured I'd actually figure out what those technical issues I was having with the spacebar on my keyboard is. I spilled coffee on it, which I know is not the best way to treat a keyboard, so I might have to go buy a new keyboard tomorrow.
Sometimes we go through hell, but the key is to remember that even greats fail, but we rise again. The minds of men can conquer the greatest challenges when they look within. Look too deep and you might not like what you find. Time and time again I had to break to become fine. I'ma break once more, it's written. But every time I break, I get so much closer to winning. Less time spent sinning, more time to spend in it. They indifferent, but I seen real people taste millions. Shit's crazy.
I just like the fact that we're getting to know, we're getting to know Raw Soul so well. And within the first track of this EP, there's no filler, there's no BS, there's no kind of playing with the listener's expectations or any manipulation involved. You're just getting it. It's just real.
The BS you speak only makes me more wavy. Go ahead, blame me. Shit, it's okay, I make mistakes, but I learn till I hit up the web, create and make shit.
Actually, nice side chaining to that motif as well with the drums on that bass. that an acoustic kit? Has it been sampled or they've recorded it and played it?
Just like Michael. Michael.
And that was Ballin' Like Michael. I think that this track is about, Raw Soul as a rapper trying to achieve the heights of their ambition. And they're comparing it to Michael Jordan, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the kind of approach we're going for here. And I think we absolutely smashed it out of the park, Really well done, really authentic performance. So it kind of makes you want to root for him too. That was produced by Steve G. I think we've got different, if I'm not mistaken, we've got different producers for each track with the exception of Impala Drummers, who does production on 2 tracks. So we've got Shine next, production by Ian James. Suppose I should probably show the single art. So that's the single art for Michael here. And then we've got Shine. Oh, hang on. And then we've got Shine here by Raw Soul here in the art for that as well. Cool. And I should have the album art for this in the intro and outro as well for the track and the conclusion. These sort of neo jazzy fusion extensions, harmonies, little broken chords are kind of pretty.
Let him shine. Oh. Blazing all this time. He after it all. The whole of what's yours, mine. It's mine is ours. Take the shit and
that ambience.
First comes the money, then comes the hour. Let him shine. He been blazing all this time. He after it all. The whole of what's yours, mine. It's mine is ours. Take the shit and blare it louder. First comes the money, then comes the hour.
First comes the money, then comes the hour. Dope. Sick. Great. I love the brass and the little jazzy fusions there, It adds a sense of sophistication and maturity to this piece, It can balance out some of the harsher tones or the harsher sentences that come through simply by it seeming, well, at least the accompaniment is mellow and sort of, it's a nice combination when you get the rapping on top.
Heart skipping a step, I might bet it all on a turn of the dice. Stories of mice, a man light this pan, flights to Zen, shock like a one, but I take the shot like it's right at 10. No pressure, but pressure make you diamonds. Won't hear Willie, son, I guess I'm like Zion. Cheesy mind with the cheesy rhymes. I don't like no sleazy dimes, but I might back me 2 easy 5s.
I can hear this really subtle double tracking of the vocals on the sides there at the end of these sort of lines. I think that's fantastic, And when I said in the previous track that I was glad there wasn't too much sort of ornamentation, I didn't mean there should be none. I think minimalism can be really helpful. It's just it's trying not to overwhelm the listener or to treat them like they're like dopamine fiends, that they need like stimulation every single couple of seconds. And people aren't stupid. It's good to not to treat your audiences like they're dumb, There's keeping attention, but then there's a bit of nuance to that,
I'm an average Joe seeking growth, yes evolve, poker face, got a guy, no I won't fall. Told y'all I'm in it to win it. Cliche bar, but I'm far from a cliche tenant. A guest in this bitch, finna overstay is welcome. You're welcome, I'm rare, finna bring y'all some hell, son. Let him shine.
And we got that like motif that's just repeated there, It's fairly easy to follow along to, and it's got 3 chords there, a little bit of, again, it's a classy kind of tone to it. It's not meant to overwhelm you or make you feel like upset or anything like that. You just kind of sit there. It's kind of like being in a coffee shop listening to someone spit on the mic. I love that we're using a different kind of instrument, different texture for different sort of backing vocals, kind of like that effect.
Shit and blare it louder. First comes the money, then comes the hour. Everybody wanna know what it feel like to speak what's in your heart, the spark of this heat, right? A deep dive into a pool of a peace pipe, beast feisty, X-Men till he breathes right. No Gotham night, cause I don't wane. I grow amid smoke, my need a summer rain, hover aim like I ain't playing, but you dumb lanes take shit for granted, a panic when your butler canes Alfredo. No way, oh.
Nice. I'm really glad that we're kind of doing some sort of cleanish vocals here, just adjusting the flow of it. I mean, I like da da dun, da ba da 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 dun 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 as much as the next listener, but at the same time, it just gives a little bit more sort of like identity to the track if you switch it up. Oh, this is a new part. This is something different. We're putting emphasis on these particular words. We need to pay super extra attention to this. Because the chorus, the hook line's already being repeated enough. The listener will know it at this point.
Well put together and smooth like Oleo. Most overlooked, least understood. Tracks over hooks, nooks, and crannies I've undertook. Past you wouldn't survive. I've thrived, alive and wise. Continuing to seek the eternal prize. Yeah, let them shine.
Continuing to seek eternal prize. I like that. It's not just about getting to a point where you're happy. It's never stopping to develop yourself, you know. Always pushing forward and being the best that you can be, irrespective of who you were yesterday. It's a beautiful concept, like truly.
He after it all, the whole of what's yours, mine. Mine is ours. Take the shit and blare it louder. First comes the money, then comes the hour. Let him shine. He been blazing all this time. He after it all, the whole of what's yours, mine. Mine is ours. Take the shit and blare it louder. First comes the money, then comes the hour.
Again, every second loop, dum, brum, bum, brum, you know, it's just that little change there, that melody. They shift in that tail. It's like, oh, we're looping it again. Oh, but it's different this time. Oh, that's fantastic. And a really classy fade out as well. I mean, I think I know what the track is about. As I mentioned, it's about, not taking your position for granted and continue to develop as an artist, as a musician, as a human being. But I think also it's almost like the accompaniment, the main motif behind it was casual enough that it should just be normal for you to want to do better. And I think that's a beautiful sort of suggestion, that amalgamation of different factors within Shine. Again, production by Ian James. Really great EP so far, 2 for 2. We got Monsters, production by Impala Drummers.
Sitting at a coffee shop, I copy.
That was filthy. That bass resonance was utterly filthy. That is one of the best hits I've had in a track like this. It just thumps. Production in hip hop and rap nowadays is unparalleled. There is so much competition at the same time. When you get that good feel, you get that good feel. And you're looking for people like, Steve G, Ian James, and Impala Drummers who can really deliver that next level stuff for you to be able to vibe over, you know?
Stars, karate chop, I clocking hard, yeah, I hardly crop what I think, you blink and you think it might be caught, talking like my shit don't stink, grown, cleaner, purple with the robe like a Rome, Caesar, sitting on a griffin at my home, Peter, hardly have I ever saw the throne, meager, musings of a man with too much time on his hand.
Great, it's nice to have a little bit of a break with the low end stuff. If you do it all the time, it becomes boring, and that's the most criminal thing you can do. It's such a dope sounding sort of concept there. There's a little colourful melodic percussion going on there with those vocal chops at the start and that high range and the filtering there. I could never have predicted it would hit like that. It's kind of like a drop before you have the build.
Sometimes I made to soft, but don't mistake me for flan. She deserved, put in work, I was raised in the sand. Yeah, accustomed to snow, a craft in Pinocchio. Strings may be tied, confined, put my trust in Geppetto. I get shown in poems of how I need to grow. Sometimes I listen, other times it takes a toll. Black out on beat, catch up, just breathe. Map out the streets, hunting the peace. Monsters we freak, caught up we reach. On top we speak, the light we need. Black out on beat, catch up, just breathe.
Really intense vocal modulation there. I'm kind of enjoying the vibe of it. I'm still figuring out what the track is about, whether it's talking about people who are monsters or whether raw soul and musicians like that are at the level where they are monsters. Tap our feet, caught up we reach, the top we meet, our demise Great adjustment with that flow there.
The genie learns and dreams we turn to him, yet we earn what we deserve, or perhaps more. I speak a piece, you seek myself off the fucking all my story of growth.
And the little snare fill. We didn't need it to go that hard, but we did just do that little buzz roll. It's just it's character building. It's a great transition at that halfway point.
Has been slowed by the war. I fear it there where we see our core stories galore. What my life entails would cause an uproar. Visions and signs that time may show what's in store. I got plenty of gusto, mucho gusto. Mi amo not so buenos dias. Do you see us post-psychotic disappears? We need leaders, not for profit. Honest, can you hear us? Bring us nearer. Can you free us? Black out on beat, catch up, just breathe. Map out the streets, hunting for peace. Monsters we freak, caught up we reach. On top we sleep, the light
Dope. I like the vocal, the sample here. The terrifying day in my life. I like how it connects to the monster theme there. It's just nice to have that motif behind it, just to hear it in its glory. Oh, we're fading that out as well. Interesting choice. Interesting choice. Yeah, no, this is probably my favorite so far, which is kind of a shame because the other tracks are also splendid. It's just from like the creativity and the actual production perspective, you know. I've heard stuff like Michael, I've heard stuff Monsters. It's that newer kind of stuff which is kind of twisted and weird, and people are really messing with what the role of an instrument should be. And I enjoy that. I don't know what Monsters without necessarily. I think it's about, well, he says we're monsters, we're freaks. So I assume he's saying that he's the monster. Is it the way that he behaves as a rapper? Is it their flow? Is it a musical thing, or is it just a life thing? I'm not sure. I'm sure there's I'm sure there's nuance in there and stuff like that. I did hear the words as they came through. I suppose I was also overwhelmed by everything else, which is inherently a positive. But nonetheless, I think that's 3 for 3. This is Self-Reflection Interlude, production by Batman or Batman. I think it's Batman. Bivtman. BVT man, I'm not sure. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything. It's just very difficult for me to know. Literally it says BVT man, right? But I'm assuming that it's like kind of elite speak kind of thing. That just shows my age, I suppose, eh? Very similar to what we had in Shine. Self-reflection interlude.
You ever reflect
I do.
and not too sure about the answers you get? Yeah. Flicking through the channels, listen to the rambles. All of the news got the views, but I snooze when I pay attention to these animals. I try to read to be informed, I just want us to get along. But I see the same flaws in me that I see in them and the rest of the throng. I guess I need a bit of self-reflection, second guessing my intentions. I message my friends to get a hand. In the end, I'm left on red and get no attention. Makes me think if my vibe is off, or I'm not that important. Sometimes I do get in my feelings. This healing is something that I'm working on.
I like the fact that we're just being honest and raw throughout this. Like, we've had songs like Michael or Monsters where we're sort of talking about more of like the outgoing aspects of who we are, our goals and ambitions, our dreams, and Shine continuing to work towards something better. Self-reflection interlude is a different beast. It's more like showing that vulnerability there, understanding that, you know, I think a lot of people know how it feels to be left on red. It sucks. And it does make you think things, even if that person is just busy and they will reply later, it's still like, what am I doing wrong? Because our brains suck, you know?
Whiskey on the rocks, tipsy on the docks, only streams from the pots, and the turning of the clock is definite. I'm messing with these tracks, but I'm second in command. Oh damn, I might be the man. Decaf coffee and dreams of the sand. Haven't been home in a while, feel disconnected from the fam. Haven't spoken to them in years, and I'm here, pen a song like, man, I should be with a man, see him. This life can be so fleeting, I don't think they know that I care. For a while I've been caught up, locked up on my demons. Damn.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Go back. Damn. Wonder where I'm at. Flicking through the channels, listening to my panel. Attitudes and platitudes, I ain't mad at you, I'm only mad at what I do. I come with the crew, then we split.
I like the fact that as we go along, sorry to interrupt the outro, I know it's about done.
Yet I stick to my guns. For funds, I launch to the dungeon. These tracks are a bunch of
Again, we've got that jazzy kind of coffee shop kind of vibe, that lo-fi hip-hop kind of groove, where we simply have someone on a mic sort of like telling us about their insecurities and everything like that. And then I think that eventually they do realize upon that self-reflection, that introspection, that they may have potentially not helped themselves speak by, that they may have made themselves isolated simply by not keeping up with people and focusing on doing something that's not necessarily related or helpful to where they would need to be. I think that's a beautiful thing. It can be incredibly difficult to be honest with yourself, and even more so to be honest with yourself when you're writing music. But what I like about Raw Soul is that he learns as he goes along, even if it's just within 2 minutes, and that's the power of storytelling. I think the overall neutrality and sort of philosophical nature of the motif behind it with the brass, you know, and the keyboard and the drums and everything like that, they were nice and peaceful as opposed to like Monsters, which was a lot more aggressive. I think that was a nice backing for that. So that's really good. One on to Batman for that. Lassoed, production by Eerie Skies. That's a pretty little single cover there, eh? I enjoy that. Where are we going with this though? It's a ballsy move to have this much of an intro on a track like this, but I enjoy that because it's really gorgeous.
Lately, baby, I've been thinking hard, tipping on glasses of the dawn or some shit that's the same color. I've been missing summer, but lately, baby, it's been winter. Cold dinners where you feel like a beginner, okay? In a flash, you pass me by, say goodbye till tomorrow. When the sorrow becomes thorough, has me sigh. You say with me, you ride.
I think there's some vocal modulation going on here, and it does sound different to the rest of the tracks within this EP. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just noticeable.
So I try to catch a vibe, but within me is an empty vessel. You got me lasso.
Clown in a castle, yet I
Okay,
make you
cool. That was a
laugh.
deliberate. All right.
It's pointed.
Good job.
I mean, come on, let's do the math. 1 + 1 equals me and you. True, but 1x + you makes a problem. Can you see the proof? Scars, I see them, yes. I have them too, let's share regrets.
Sorry to interrupt again. I apologize simply because I know there's people who are probably enjoying listening to this. Please, if you enjoy this music, please do go listen to the album, to the EP. I mean, you know, go support Raw Soul if you're digging these tunes. But for real, you know, just the way the bass and the keys come in, and it's just so gentle and pretty and gorgeous. I just adore it to pieces. You know, like sure, there's excitement and power within like more sort of hard-laced trap hip hop bass. You know, the kind of drill stuff that's going on and everything. But this is a little bit more sensual and a little bit kind of more pleasant to listen to in certain respects. I think that, you know, there's moods for this kind of stuff, and when you know, you know.
My best sunsets and salutations, undressed and then you naked. Hundreds of situations all led to this amazing moment. The hunger dormant, the thunder storming. But I think this drink is a hint of what might have me zooming, roaming in aroma. No glaucoma, blinded by your aura, but I wonder sorta when it's over, will I become colder? Is this love? We may grow apart, or we may build something of us sent from up above. I said, is this love? We may grow apart, but will I cherish the time when I was mainly us?
It's just sensational, dude. I've got all the time in the world for it. It's kind of nice to have like a kind of like a what is this? Yeah, like it's a love song, right? Well, not necessarily a love song. It's a song talking about relationships and all that kind of goss. And I appreciate the frankness of it. I appreciate the situation we've got where we're just trying to have an honest kind of conversation, as if it's not antagonizing or anything like that. I think maybe it's a follow-on from Self-Reflection interlude, where we're kind of assessing maybe the damage that's been caused or something like that, and we're wondering where to go from there.
Tipping on glasses of the dawn or some shit that's the same color. I've been missing summer, but lately, baby, it's been winter. Cold dinners where you feel like a beginner, okay? In a flash, you pass me by, say goodbye till tomorrow. When the sorrow becomes thorough, has me sigh. You say with me, you rise, so I try to catch a vibe, but within me is an empty vessel. You got me lasso.
Yes, I'm an asshole.
Damn. But the music, wait, what? Can we go back a little bit? I'm just thinking about this as we go along. What was that last track? We say we're being bad, so I try to catch a vibe. With the music, empty vessel, you've got me lassoed. So wait, has he been hollowed out because of the experience within the relationship? I have been listening as we've been going along. I've kind of fallen in love with the strings and everything in the background, though. It's difficult for me to
I'm an asshole, single for so long, relations become a hassle with these feelings that I tassel, but for you I make exception. These bars are my weapon as the crow marks. We talk about that ex I mentioned, scars I see them, yes. I have them too, love makes us fools in truth, but in your nest, I'd like to roost a baboon.
Okay, so never mind. I've completely misunderstood this. Initially, I had a different interpretation of lassoed, obviously, than I do now.
In this jungle, let's rumble. I got the lumber. You a freak like Mystique. Ship shift when we tumble. Now I fumbled cause I got too explicit. Innocence is pure. I'm a sewer, so I'm missing. Now listen.
Calling himself a sir. So wait, is it just simply that he's a broken person and he wants to be with this woman, but he's maybe not good enough or not healed enough in order to be able to cope with that?
Mud, drinking stuff, heavy till I get a buzz. Wonder why I'm filled with lust, or is it love? Shit may be cheesy. Be easy till tomorrow. I will wait for when she sees me. Will she free me, and will I free her, or am I just another guy to make her kitty purr?
Oh shit. Oh, okay.
I've been thinking hard, sipping on glasses of the dawn or some shit that's the same color. I've been missing summer, but lately, baby, it's been winter. Cold dinners where you feel like a beginner, okay? In a flash, you pass me by, say goodbye till tomorrow, and the sorrow becomes thorough, has me sigh. You say, where be you by? So I try to catch a vibe, but within me is an empty vessel. You got me lassoed.
So I get the impression from this track. I mean, we'll listen to the outro because I've been pausing it quite a lot in this one. That little ascending kind of arpeggio melodic lick is just, and then boom, that slow glide there with those strings on the left. Oh, it's automated panning to the right? That's clever, man. That's really clever. It's a sad song, really. It's a sad song. It's not you know, again, there's a lot of beauty within the concept of what they're trying to accomplish here. You know, I really appreciate that we are trying to do this thing where we again show further vulnerability by expressing ourselves in our fullness and frankness. And we kind of go, am I just another guy that, you know, she's sleeping with? And that's where we get to from that is that we're just genuinely, I think a lot of people struggle to communicate about stuff like this, and the more hurt we get, the harder it can become if we don't heal properly. I think a lot of people will be able to relate to a track like this alongside others, but maybe even especially this, and maybe especially Self-Reflection Interlude. I think that kind of capitulating to some of the more sort of like stuff that people are more used to in hip hop and rap. Not to say there isn't stuff like 4 and 5 and a lot of different hip hop and rap albums, but I think that especially in this day and age with the way that musicians are now, and people are becoming a little bit more sort of like, it's just so cool that there isn't this like need to be so hard. I like the fact we're discussing this in a conversational tone. Well done to Airy Skies for that beautiful motif in the background, especially with those extensions here. So they were playing with triads, but there's a lot of mid and high in resonance there in Lassoed. That was like, it was the sweetness of getting sucked into it and not being able to get out. I think that was basically that track. We've got Regression by Impala drummers.
I'm not fighting for anything anymore except myself. I'm the only cause I'm interested in. Would you be ever a sedative?
Here we go, young brother stealing the show. Okay, maybe not really though. How I flow is
Yeah, the decisions like the padding of the various parts of the accompaniment have been obviously different between the different producers. I like how wide this mix is. I like the little vocal samples, like not being worried anyone else apart from himself and would you like a sedative, and it comes in with just regression.
though I should practice it, but I'm 30 years old, I ain't really hacking it. Listen, I really wanna paint a picture of a man who's made it here with ya, but truthfully, ruthlessly, I've cut ties with my former life. Balance the highs with the lows like the edge of a knife. It's time I find myself a wife, but Cupid has missed me with his arrow. Why? I write standards of matches like I'm ahead in this bonanza, but I'm awkward IRL. Let's Jerry Moore Costanza. As I answer the flood of dreams telling me to take this seriously, I cut it out like I ain't paid the power bill, and eerily I find myself backtracking. I'm backpacking the bars. Jump star, wonder if I've fallen far. Forgive me, Lord. Just a man with heart broken.
I like the fact we're going to that prayer here, not necessarily because I think songs should contain a prayer, but it's like just trying to find an answer to it, you know, to that regression, what's going on within this. Those vocal are really gorgeous, you know, there are a lot nice brightness up there, and the freshness and tightness of those drums with the bass and everything else going on with the piano as well is sensational. This is a really cool concept here, you know.
5 misspoken, say it's me you're quoting, whether I wish it or
Those strings with
remain
immense
open.
reverb chains.
The apple don't fall far from the tree, and I'm choking.
The air is consumed by cigarette smoke. I steadily choke. Is he for real or is he a mope? His rap's a joke, his tracks got no hope, but he still got soul. He falls, he trying to grow. I said the air is consumed by cigarette smoke. I steadily choke. Is he for real or is he a mope? His rap's a joke, his tracks got no hope, but he still got soul. He falls, he trying to grow.
Great finish there with that bass line. It's sensational. Nice little tail to come out with. It's just the little things, you know. You got a catchy drum beat, man. You know, that filtering on the vocals to make them stand out from the verse. Nice and full as opposed to the airiness that we had in the previous part, like the verse.
Here we go, young brother taking a toke, missing the green, but it seems when he smokes his brain goes broke. broke. He wasted his time, Instagram plays with his mind. They moving forward and he feeling left behind. He tells himself one day it'll be my turn. The fire burns, but he pretty inconsistent. Headstrong and persistent to remain in place like a broken system. Saw the path and he missed them. He made some progress, but at a snail's pace. He paid for the process, he lasted in this rat race. Occupied by a dream that feels like programming. Jealous of the successes of those whose fans are standing.
It kind of makes me wonder whether they're actually playing like the bass guitar or some stuff like that, because that sounds like it's actually been recorded. Like it sounds like a commercial release. The vast majority of what I've heard tonight sounds like something from like a major label. It's very professional. It's exactly where we need to be from a production standpoint. In this day and age, especially with so many people within the genre.
He knows all he wants is peace of mind. Manifest destiny, he seeks the divine. But what he looking for, he can't seem to find. Too occupied by these pennies and dimes, no. The air is consumed by cigarette smoke. I steadily choke. Dizzy, is he for real or is he a mope? His rap's a joke, his tracks got no hope. But he still got soul, he falls, he trying to grow. I said, the air...
Are there woodwinds in there? How many different instrument layers do we have in there? I have so many questions, man. I've been an absolute trip to look through like the DAW session files for these tracks. And there's like several different overdubs in the size as well to make them nice and wide. It's just wild, man. It's wild.
Your mom is very serious.
You just can't take this shit sometimes.
What kind of shit?
Just shit.
A lot of the time, we feel like our lives are the worst, but I think if you looked at anybody else's closet, you would trade your shit for their shit.
True, true.
That's why I jumped in. I knew if I were drowning, you tried to save me. You see, you did. And that's how I saved you.
Gorgeous. Wonderful sentiment there. A track that I understand a little bit more clearly than Lassoed, where like simply we have, we have someone, right, who is after being looking at themselves, looking at what they've done, where they are, who they are, what they're doing. They have come to terms with their weaknesses, their flaws, their imperfections, and they're just trying to continue forward regardless. They're just accepting themselves. And I think that's really fantastic. And the reason I think that's fantastic is because it's more of that vulnerability that I want to hear from musicians. I do not mind hearing someone talk about how incredible they are at what they do if they can also talk about what they're not able to do. There's got to be a yin-yang sort of balance to that stuff. No one's perfect, right? When people don't ever talk about what their demons or the skeletons in their closet, it's like, well, then who are you? Are you even real? Are you just perfect? Is it, you don't necessarily want to get behind that person. In fact, it often leads to jealousy and stuff like that, which is ironic because I think if people knew the stuff that the successful people had, like talking about like Instagram and stuff like that being left behind, I think that's really meaningful. Social media kind of putting people in a position where they feel like they're lesser, even if it's just the most perfect photos taken that only encapsulate that 1% of their life, which is that good. It's just absolute garbage in my humble opinion. So I don't like social media, but I also understand it's like a necessity. It's a necessary sin because that's what people are and that's what people are doing. So it's tricky. It's finding a balance, I suppose. More excellent production by Impala drummers. No complaints at all. Final track, Michelin by Felak. Really fascinating vocals going on here. Is this Raw Soul singing or has he gotten someone in to help?
Praise God, I was born to rain hard. Shredded on a Gibson, man, I got a brave heart. Lame bars, got none of those, man, I claim Mars. A man of war, the force of my raw main stars.
Dope, I dig it. So this is the track we're gonna finish on. Let's go, let's do this.
scheming and plotting, heaving and puffing the shit. It's Thanksgiving and your girl getting the stuff in the shit. For me, it's nothing, just a taste of the scruffing she wanted. It's super bad, so I give her the McGlove and never cuff it.
We're getting our confidence back. I love that. Because that's the thing, like, if you think about it from, like, a lyrical perspective, like, why would you want an album or an EP to end on a sad note? It's not very satisfying, is it? Really intense panning on those brass elements, though. I'm not sure if I'm a super massive fan of that.
Raw Saw coming soon to a theater near you.
You do it, man.
The world is going up in flames.
Well, flu season.
Y'all with me?
I love how theatrical this is. I love those screams, those demonic. It's good fun.
This looking like a jigsaw, about to put together at a pit stop. You're the missed shots, wristwatch looking nice out. Shit a bit hard. These TikToks are worth racks, tracks a bit raw. I mean, like a hot walk in the park, born in the dark. Now the night brighter lights a spark. What you know about tough times? Trouble turned the rubble into tough lines. Now I get to cuff dimes. Hold up, what I say about coffin, smoke a bride, get a line, bake a pie in the oven, take my prize. I'm a husband for the night, get it right tonight. I hit her like in dire need of a woman, okay.
I'm not sure how I feel about how widely those trumpets are panned to the left. They're very wide in the mix and headphones, and like I feel like I'm not sure stylistically why that was done. I'm not sure. Is it meant to be like you're in the ring with someone and it just goes ba 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 ba? I'm not sure. I'm kind of confused. I get the vocals on this side, but they're like that way.
Okay, I might be getting ahead of myself. It's a long road, gotta buy my time. And excuse my voice throughout this track. Got a bit of a flu. You know how I do.
Excellent. Excellent. Because this is the conclusion of my review of Raw Soul's Flu Season EP. That last track again had phenomenal production by Falak, and this EP had great production, just first of all from Steve J, Ian James, Dempala drummers, Batman, Eerie Skies. It's just excellent work to everyone involved. Each of the tracks had their own unique identity. We talked about the various what they're about and the interlude sections. I suppose Michelin, just before we go into the rest of the conclusion, I think Michelin was it was a track about someone, after self-reflection, lassoed and regression, coming out of it, finding their fire again, even if they've been a bit sick for whatever reason, struggling with stuff. They're here, they mean business, and they're not screwing around. It's time to lay hands, it's time to lay palms. And I think that there is something that's really dope. I think as a concept, that's more than welcome. I enjoy the idea of that. Someone not settling for less, not letting life beat them down. And I think that this EP as a whole, Flu Season EP, is simply someone coming into the start of this journey we're going in thematically, like from a like a tale or like a movie. It's like a movie. We had the first tracks, Michael Shining Monsters, where it was like we were on top, we were kind of continuing to move forward, we were completely like going beast mode on whatever we did. Then self-reflection, interlude, lassoed, and I think regression is like that's that second part of a film where we kind of take it down a little bit and we kind of sort of reconnect with who we are and kind of try to understand why we are maybe not exactly where we need to be. And we kind of make amends to that. We make plans. We try to discuss it further, find a way to avoid it happening again. And then Michelin, I think, is that final part of a movie where you lift yourself out of it. You overcome the big bad guy, which is self-doubt and anything else inclusive to that. And realizing that you've got possibilities and opportunities and a chance to really make it if you keep going and make the correct decision. And I enjoy that. This has been one of my favorite EPs that I've listened through this year, primarily because it has a journey you go through. It makes sense to me. It's smart. It's kind of the point of an EP. I think a lot of people just throw random tracks together and it's like, hey, this is songs I've made. And it's like, no. An EP is meant to be an extended play. It's your ability to tell a story through multiple tracks because you can't put it all into one, if that makes sense. That's how I see EPs. And I think that these 7 tracks told a story that was easy to follow and respectable. I think that legitimately we didn't need to do anything differently. Raw Soul smashed it. From a vocal perspective, Raw Soul was on top of his game. Most, if not all of it, was basically rapping, some melodic rapping, mostly the sort of rhythmic sort of guide there. And we had some vocal samples and stuff along the way, as well as some overdubs occasionally. But just the flow that was put throughout. And I said flow a lot. The way he rapped was great. He's got a lot of proficiency with what he does. He's clearly someone who is experienced and passionate and has been working, has been grinding away, but I think in the best possible way. I don't really think we needed to do anything differently from a vocal perspective. It was consistently interesting. The tracks were short enough to where even if you weren't necessarily a fan of his vocal timbre, for whatever reason, doesn't matter, because the fact remains is that the tracks were like 3 to 4 minutes at most, and 2.5 at least. It's enough to tell a story and come out, and each of these tracks had a compelling story that were reinforced by not only the vocals, the ability to sort of like put these words through clear, the storytelling, the way we told these tales, the word plays, little references like pop culture stuff and everything like that. It was, and everything else, just the sincerity in some parts along with the bravado of others. There were great emotional thematic contrasts in this, and I think that it's a really strong release. I also believe firmly that the motifs back these up. These tracks each they ranged from like sort of contemporary kind of like the trap kind of drill kind of sub 808s and everything like that, some sort of jazzy, more soulish kind of vibes, and we had some pretty sort of like lo-fi stuff going on as well. Each of the songs I think matched the story well and the subject matter, and the vocals sounded great over top of all of them. Even I think it was Lassoed or something where I wasn't initially a fan or like understanding why the vocals sounded as they did. They came in with the raw ones in the verse and everything went back full circle, and I was satisfied with it. The structure of these tracks was traditionally like verse chorus, which makes a lot of sense. I think Michelin was more sort of free form, where we had like sort of like little interludes in between like the first and second parts and stuff, and I think that's great. It's nice to change it up at the end to have more of a kind of break the fourth wall a little bit, to talk to the listener and to kind of thank them and appreciate them and show that they mean something to you when you're a musician and making this music. I enjoy that a lot. I don't expect it. I don't feel entitled to it, but it's great to have. The actual the job we did with the arrangements, the performances and arrangements, like there were so many different instruments. I think partly because we had all these different producers, but also I mean like we had lots of different drum kits, basses, pianos, maybe some flutes and woodwinds and strings and stuff like that, little samples and sequencizers, and just I don't know if we had guitar. Definitely keys and piano, and it's just all these different elements and textures and timbres and colorations and devices and tools were used in ways that made a lot of sense for what we wanted to accomplish. The brass as well, man, like the saxes and trumpets and everything like that. They were bombastic. It's such a vibe. This EP is such a vibe, and the motifs with the way that things were arranged and composed and structured, they made perfect sense with the respective sort of like statements made within the story. Raw Soul's vocals matched each of those songs very well. There were no points where I was like, what is going on here? If anything, the only thing I can possibly think of is from a production, recording, mixing, and mastering standpoint. The only weirdness for me was the panning of that trumpet or whatever that brass was in the top and the far left of the stereo field. I didn't understand that. I didn't necessarily like it because it didn't feel balanced with what was going on that side. I'm just checking that they are on straight. Everything else was absolutely flawless though. I love the actual recording quality of the vocals along with the other instruments in the mix. I'm not sure how much of it was performed instead of, as opposed to being sampled, but I don't care. It sounded great. The EQing, effects change, filtering and everything was phenomenal. The leveling for the most part was exceptional. The panning instruments for the most part was nice and wide. We had different approaches from different producers, and I can tell there's potentially slightly different levels of experience between them, but I think everyone achieved what they needed to, work to their strengths and smashed it out of the park. The production, You know, like the actual, like, sorry, not the production we've talked about, but the production overall was great. I have no real complaints about the way things were treated and processed, and limiting compression was spectacular. Nice and loud without pumping. Monsters is still my favorite track off the EP. It's just that theme with the vocals and then the bass coming in. It's just the little things. Like, I've heard lots of bass before, but there was something kind of unique about it, and it's very difficult to find a unique bass tone nowadays with all the different tools and tricks you had. But that is not to say that I had lesser experiences with the rest. Really strong EP, fantastic work, and that's effectively my review of Raw Soul's Flu Season EP. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show Raw Soul some love via the various social medias and the SoundCloud page. And just a reminder before we go any further, this will be out on October the 14th. So if you're watching this, chances are it's out. Please do go you go check it out. And stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.